Breaking tonight, late last night, in the wake of Prime Minister Netanyahu's re-election and his statements just before Election Day that he didn't see a Palestinian state happening, White House officials said the U.S. might now stop protecting Israel at the United Nations, a reversal of decades of policy. As we just showed you in our interview with the Prime Minister today, he offered a clarification on his position, suggesting he is still open to it, a Palestinian state, under the right terms. You would think that the Obama administration would be thrilled about this. This is what they say they want. Instead, across the board today, we witnessed something very different. Watch.
I'm just wondering why the White House is being so selective with the rhetoric that Prime Minister Netanyahu has used to base these considerations to policy going forward.
Because of his comments days before the election, it does raise questions about his commitment to that solution.
Why are you willing to put more weight on those comments than you are today?
Certainly the Prime Minister's comments from a few days ago brought into question whether he was remained committed
to that.
Why
do you assume that his comments, why do you assume that he's lying today?
I think he was the Prime Minister 3 days ago, so certainly we can't, forget about those comments.
Moments ago, I spoke with Charles Krauthammer, a syndicated columnist, Fox News contributor, and author of Things That Matter, which has sold more than 1 million copies. Charles, thank you for being here tonight. And so why do you think the White House is refusing to accept the Prime Minister at his word today and instead accepting him at his word earlier this week?
Look, this is a very cynical move on the part of the administration. It knows that what happened on Tuesday was sort of an election year ploy, and Netanyahu has gone out of his way today in your interview and lots of other statements to make it very clear that what he meant, or at least the softening of it, is that he is open to a two-state solution, but the conditions, the fact that the Palestinians have not offered anything near what any Israeli government would be able to accept, are simply right now not there. The major change, the major event that's occurred in the view of the Israelis is that the government of the Palestinians is now in an alliance with Hamas. Mm-hmm. How can you make a peace agreement, a two-state solution, hand over control of the West Bank to a government that includes Hamas, which is not only dedicated to the destruction of Israel, but rules a territory called Gaza, from which it has twice initiated terror wars because it simply will not accept Israel's existence.
That's what Netanyahu said earlier this week when he said, I think whoever moves to establish a Palestinian state or intends to withdraw from territory is simply yielding territory for radical Islamic terrorists and attacks against Israel. And that's how he explained his comments earlier this week and how he explained them to me tonight. But so here's the interesting thing, Charles. So the White House has two statements to choose from. The one he made earlier this week and the one today. And they've chosen the one that's more contentious, the one that they say they don't want, the one that, happens to open the door, in their view, to them bypassing Israel and Netanyahu altogether and going to the United Nations.
That's exactly what they're doing. They're choosing the outlier statement, whereas Netanyahu and his government have been clear throughout. Look, the fact is that what Netanyahu said, even in the outlier statement, was there won't be a Palestinian state while I'm the Prime Minister. Well, I have news for the White House. There's not going to be a Palestinian state. There wouldn't have been, even if Yitzhak Herzog had won the election, the Labour Party, because there's no government in Israel that would hand over the West Bank to a government that includes Hamas. And also what's changed in the region is that there are terror organizations, Al-Qaeda affiliated in Sinai, Hamas in Gaza, you've got Hezbollah in Lebanon, you've got ISIS practically in the Golan Heights. Israel is surrounded in a region that is roiling with instability, and it would be very hard, impossible right now, for any government to conclude a deal that hands over the West Bank in a condition where you don't know if you're going to wake up tomorrow and find the West Bank in the hands of terrorists. The same way we woke up and discovered that a pro-American government in Yemen all of a sudden had become a new government, overthrown by a new government that is a client state of Iran. And we had to evacuate our embassy in a panic.
In the meantime, Josh Earnest came out today and said, well, election rhetoric has consequences. Words matter, he said. Words matter, he said, Charles. The White House said that today.
They are either trying to stab Israel in the back by supporting a UN resolution that will call for withdrawal, unilateral withdrawal of Israel without peace, without recognition, without a renunciation of terror, and will simply leave Israel helpless against 50 years of American policy, against the existing UN resolution, which is from 1967, the famous Resolution 242, which says that Israel will withdraw to secure and recognize boundaries, and these are insecure boundaries. So this would be either it's a revolution in our policy, or we're going to force a unilateral withdrawal, which could be fatal for Israel, or it's a cynical attempt to distract, create a second issue, a crisis with Israel, because we are about to hear an announcement about a catastrophic deal with Iran over nukes, and that would be a way of distracting Israeli and pro-Israel attention from the nuclear issue,
that gets
and
right to
weaken any opposition.
That gets right to my next question, which is right before we came to air, President Obama released a video address directly to the Iranian people. Here's part of it.
The days and weeks ahead will be critical. Our negotiations have made progress, but gaps remain. And there are people in both our countries and beyond who oppose a diplomatic resolution. My message to you, the people of Iran, is that together we have to speak up for the future we seek.
What do you make of that?
Well, this is unusual in American history. A president addressing a serious adversary, enemy of the U.S., where the leader leads chants of death to America. And in the midst of it, he takes a swipe at a most loyal ally in the region. Obviously, he was referring to Israel. If only he would address as warmly the Israelis as he does the Iranians and their leaders. This is quite remarkable. And it's not new to have a New Year's greeting. He did that in 2009 and ever since. There's nothing wrong with that. But to include this kind of swipe at Israel in addressing the Ayatollahs is really rather new and quite startling.
Charles, great to see you, sir.